It's a question I've seen a lot, especially on LinkedIn, a number of areas like that. So my view is that technology is really, it's a fantastic enabler. It's a really fantastic enabler. I don't believe it's a silver bullet. No. I've seen predictive maintenance, routing optimization, digital dashboards deliver huge results, really kind of game-changing results for organizations, but only when people buy in. That's the key for me here, is that you need technology, but you need the buy-in of humans, of people along the way. So without the culture that I mentioned earlier, without the right level of collaboration, tech just becomes another system. So for me, it's not the silver bullet, but it's absolutely an enabler we need to drive performance.
The thrilling topic and the fearful topic is AI. For field service, AI provides tools that I believe will help the technicians be more effective and efficient, even from a documentation perspective. If you're training someone and using AI tools, that will help to bridge the gap of what they know to what they need to know, and also how they can refer to information. Also, how it's documented. Using AI tools to document the activities and house that data, I believe really is going to be great for field service. There is also in the background a lot of people talking about predictive analytics. We're using AI from the field, from information from field service, definitely can help with the basis of predictive analytics. So, here's a scenario. You have technicians going in the field working on, let's say, a widget that has a common problem, but because it happens in different regions, the data is not housed in one area for someone to say, oh, I see a trend. Using AI as your engine or your knowledge base engine, it can search and find that information, find the uniqueness of the situation, and start to provide solutions or start to provide indicators of what could be a possible failure or lead to the failure. And in doing so, you start to create that predictive analytics. Now, if you're thinking of a field service environment, how amazing would that be if your field service would call the customer and say, look, I need to come into your account by next week, looking at the data. I want to, do some preemptive work to avoid failure. And they go in and literally fix a problem before it becomes a problem. I believe that's where we're going with AI, outside of the fear that people have of it taking jobs. There are things that it can do that makes it more efficient, but there are also things that it can't do from the personal or the interaction with people. And I think that's where field service will gain a lot of traction using AI.
I feel silly saying it because everyone's saying it, but honestly, I think AI. I think we saw, over the last 10 to 15 years, everyone was always talking about IoT, connected devices and that sort of thing, and really revolutionizing service. And while it definitely did in a lot of areas, I think, slow to adopt, a lot of costs, a lot of limitations. I think where we look at with AI now, even though everyone's talking about it and, we get to that point where, it's really one of the main buzzwords. I do think it truly is one of the biggest innovations right now that could impact us on the service side. I look at the challenges that we face, such as, big waves of retirement. A lot of our workforce in field services is approaching or at or even past retirement age. And that's a lot of institutional knowledge that goes out the door. Couple that with, it's hard to get, young people excited about field service jobs. When you do, it's great. They exist, but not nearly to the point where they did 20, 30, 40 years ago. So bridging that knowledge gap, AI is a good solution for that. Having troubles finding internal support, not having it available 24/365, AI bridges that. Taking all of this data that we have for work order history and all of the different inputs that we have and really that we sit on as an organization, and having that. Again, AI is a really good solution for that, and at a price point that's not like a major capital investment or a major infrastructure project or something like that. So that is what I'm most excited for. Certainly some challenges and some hurdles around that. But, I think it's really an exciting time for us in service. We don't get to say that very often. So I like to say it when we can. Yeah.
And there is no question that AI will make us better or can make us better if you use it properly. And of course, today, our field service engineers, they have an amount of knowledge that is absolutely amazing. So AI should help us put a form to structure in this knowledge that it will be available anytime, anywhere, to anyone. Maybe with paying a little bit. You have to charge for it. But this is where AI will bring a lot. It's helping. It's making us more efficient, and it's helping us bringing the right solution to a customer when the time is coming. So that's for me and it's linked also to remote support. When we have this enormous amount of data, of knowledge that will become manageable and available to everyone through AI. So again, I don't take technology. I use tech. I'm not a fan about technology. I'm not interested in what's behind the scene. I'm interested in what it can bring to me. And there is no doubt it will bring a lot.
Well, that is something interesting. As I end my first launch here with the professional development side in the organization is focused on leadership development. But what we notice is we're asking these guys to be more intentional, to have crucial conversations with employees and engagement, right? But that means that takes more time. So my next phase of training is the AI tools to help managers use their time more wisely. Organization uses Copilot with Microsoft. So we're going through a process now. The next phase of training is how we're going to help these managers to implement AI in their daily activities to help them, with emails and performance reviews and preparations for presentations with customers and all that, to be able to have time savings. I sent an email the other day using AI to help me write it. Honestly, it probably would have taken me somewhere 5 to 8 minutes to write that email a few months ago, and I wrote it in 30 seconds. That sounds silly, but think about that multiplied by 30 times in a day, how much time I just saved by using that. So I think that just from there's using it in field service for the guys in the field, but then there's also an administrative side and managers using AI to be. So you're not replacing the managers, you're freeing the managers up from some of the daily tasks so that they can focus on the people and the human touch in leadership, because we're never going to have a world where we don't have leaders. We always have to have leaders. So how can we use AI to help them to free up their time, build more margin to focus on the things that matter most, like the people?
I think you have to feed the AI the correct stuff, like the correct knowledge base. And I think you also have to put parameters in place where you know that we're not, and that's one of the things that we express is as we're adapting and implementing AI, we're not in the business of letting people go. We want everyone to keep their jobs. Our goal of implementation is to gain efficiencies to bring on more customers. And more customers is means more business. Putting the parameters on AI, which as you know, it's only as good as what you feed it. It gets smarter over time, the more information that it's given. So we're really focusing on right now making sure we're feeding the right information. What stuff needs to stay personal? What things need to stay internal? Where do we pull our information from? What security parameters do we put on? Because at the end of the day, that's the last thing we want people to feel like is that, oh my gosh, we're implementing all this technology. I'm going to wake up January 1 and not have a job. We're not in the business of that. I mean, I think when you have a company that treats you like family, then you have to be very specific in that way. Like, you guys are our family. Your job might look a little different. We might have different tasks so that, it improves, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to have a job.
I think that going back to the development comment I made, having the customer at the center is critically important for development. But as it relates to this specific topic, having the human in the center remains critical. An understanding of the human who is served, but also the human who is serving, and that there are more complicated and complex questions that you need to figure out in the most efficient way rather than just pushing out technology. For the addressing the idea of what customers want, price and ease are at their core, the core of those expectations. They prefer a human plus digital experience. And when you're optimizing a blend of human plus digital, that's the goal. And it's striking this right balance between human agents, contact center reps, AI solutions. And for us, that allows State Farm to focus on the meaningful customer interactions and community engagement.
So AI is great because it helps you to solve issues, let's say quickly and immediately. So for instance, looking at SCADA, or if you're looking at even just I've seen operation maintenance use just an automated tablet sort of thing that will help them troubleshoot and help them fix the issue. And that's great because it gets you back online, gets that energy back online quickly. However, the one piece that I hope that we don't miss as individuals is bringing in the why did that happen? People and operators got to still understand why the failure happened, where to troubleshoot, and how to troubleshoot it on their own, because they will lack. Otherwise, they're going to lack that knowledge of the energy site, and it's not good if you're, again, it kind of goes back to training. If your personnel don't understand why they're doing something, they're just kind of following a checklist or a basic command to do something without understanding why they're doing it.
I'd say one of the biggest changes, the customer expectation. You used to be able to go sell a service contract and it was like, what's your response time going to be? I can be there. You want a 24-hour, you want 48, you want same day. What's the service level? A lot of the advanced customers, that's not the conversation anymore. They expect, I want an asset uptime of X. I don't care how you do it, but that's what you need to deliver, right? That's what I built my business case on. So that's what needs to run. So you need to be talking that language and designing your service offering to support that, and then have that conversation and drive your organization to support the uptime metrics.
I think the customer expectation piece is an interesting one because everything's all about turnaround time, right? They want to see you. They want to see you quickly. They want to feel valued. Maybe they're under a contract, so they want to feel value for their contract, or they're in just maybe they're in a production environment where downtime is money, right? Their lines are down. They're not producing anything, right? Their lab's down. They're paying scientists to stand around and look at their expensive equipment that's not working. There's a lot of different scenarios with that. And, it's all about that response time. But, the other side of that too is it's not just about showing up. It's making sure that when you leave, the problem's done and dusted, everything's sorted out, and they're up and running. Again, it's not, hey, you got here really quickly, great, but you got here just to do an evaluation, just to tell me that now you got to come back in 2 weeks with parts, right? So it's juggling that. And, the expectations, I think, in that side have always been high, but in a way, the other industries around us have further driven that home. I mean, a lot of us live in a situation where with Amazon, you can order something and have it in your house in 2 or 3 hours, right? Not everyone, but that's that's the case in a lot of our consumer world, right? And, for us as consumers and our customers are consumers, even though they know that that's a lot different than having, a large assembly that needs to be delivered on a pallet, they still have this experience in part of their life. And, we're always interacting with service no matter what we do. That starts to creep in to, your expectations with other vendors and other parts of your life. And I think that's a real challenge that we face too, where everything's.
So I would obviously start with some of the customers' expectations that I see how they involved in the field service sector. I think as I mentioned before, I think there's a lot more expectancy from customers moving away from that reactiveness. They want to more proactive insight, faster resolution, and as I also mentioned, service that add strategic value. So, uptime is absolutely critical for any customer. So customers are really pushing for that predictive maintenance remote capabilities. I know there's a lot of businesses that are really moving towards this, but I've also seen a shift towards more of that outcome-based relationship. So they're not just buying the equipment, they're really investing in performance. And I see a shift change of providing as a service type of models. And I think this is maybe where service leaders really need to hone in on, is the type of models that you have currently running in your service organization going to be effective? Will that be effective over the next couple of years? And then start pushing more towards that transactional interactions towards more of a long-term partnerships. Because I always say service need to build up a good relationship with their customers so that we are seen as trusted advisors, but not just as technical fixers. And I think this is really critical.
I think it's the use of data, and that still stays an ongoing pursuit within the mining industry. We don't have all the enablers we need to do effective data management, but certainly the focus on data and how we use data and how we use data to make more educated decisions is becoming massive. And traditionally, people have seen this as a management tool and seen it as how we manage the operation overall and make the people more efficient. But for me, it's about how the end users also can use the tools to enable them to perform better with themselves and do things differently. The mining industry faces a massive problem in terms of skills. It doesn't matter how we look at it, trying to get new people into the mining industry, especially younger people. It's not an attractive industry. People don't really want to come get their hands dirty anymore. So you have to find other alternative ways on how to use technology. So technologies are coming in all over from all different angles to perform various different tasks. But the nuts and bolts of it all goes about how we manage the data and how we utilize it. So automated operations are very good. We talk about zero entry mining in the longer run, but there's still so many building blocks that have to be put in place for that. And doesn't matter how you unpack it, there are very many mines and mining methods around the world that current technologies don't support automation anyway. So you have to try and make those smarter utilizing other technologies. Excuse me. And that I think is really where the core focus in the mining industry is right now.
Well, I think technology is moving very, very quickly. I think there is one that is close to my heart, and we probably underutilize it. Maybe not in all industry, but in my environment, is remote support. Remote support, and I would add translation, voice over voice translation. In a continent like Europe, with so many languages spoken, and people in the field not always fluent in English or any others, this automatic or voice over voice instant translation is bringing enormous value. And I see a big change in the way we will use remote support in the future using voice over voice translation. This is for me that will come. And we probably missed an opportunity. You remember during COVID, when COVID came, what was not possible on Friday became not only possible, but required on Monday. Remote support, work from home, online training, everything became basically mandatory. And then when it calmed down, some of the staff stayed, like work from home, online training. I mean, in large corporation, most of the training, any kind of training, even leadership, is done online. There is much less face-to-face. The technical training is also developing well in the industry. What has changed, went back to what it was before, is remote support. Customers still wanted to see field service engineers in their factories. And actually, I believe companies, the equipment manufacturer, were kind of accomplice because they had engineers to keep busy. They have to charge traveling hours, and technician traveling is part of their revenues in a way. So we probably missed an opportunity. Was with a technology that was developed extremely quickly, remote support for me is a winner for the future.
Yeah, I think there's like two forces in the world right now in terms of technical skilled labor. One is that whole workforce is shrinking across the globe. And it really is an output of like the last couple of decades of, frankly, society saying that the trades aren't great places to work, even though we're finding how untrue that those statements were 20, 30 years ago. We're paying for it now because that workforce is shrinking, right? And because that workforce is shrinking, AI is becoming more important in order to become the filter of what that technician should be doing versus what I call the nuisance repairs. Sometimes he'll go out and he'll find a breaker panel flipped, and he flips a breaker panel. And yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal because you just bill the customer an hour, you're getting your revenue, but it is a big deal because it takes him away from going to something he needs to go to, right?
Mhm.
And that's how I think AI first is going to start to help us. It's going to help offset some of this strain that we have in terms of staffing in the service world. The second piece is it's going to help optimize a lot of our routes and our efficiencies and how we think about delivering technicians with the right skills and the right competencies.
What do engineers love to do? They love to help and they love to teach. And at the end of the day, I would love to see some of my higher end, more tenured guys leave a legacy by growing up the more entry level, working on the desktop side of things, and get them evolved into their career so that we continue to have an evolution of a path of success. Because the other thing I mentioned earlier is I'm worried about the entry and mid-level jobs. If we start overutilizing technology to replace some of those things because we can, because it's easy, how do you have people grow into those higher level roles? How do you get them there without having that path? So I would like over the next couple of years, that's probably one of my biggest goals, right? And what do you at the top? Like, what are we putting at the top? Somebody didn't go through the school of hard knocks and earn their way up or work their way. Like, I use those core skills of the critical thinking of the problems. If they had tools doing everything for them and they do a really good job because they do a great job managing things and they run the programs and the platforms and so they inevitably get promoted or whatever, did they really learn the job? And then they get into the middle where they're making decisions on behalf of the people using those tools. It's scary, actually.
Yeah, so strategy is one, clearly. Then I talked about people. So convincing senior leaders, yeah, bringing people on board, that's another one. What's very critical as well is to deliver some quick wins at the beginning to create the momentum, to have this, energy, bring everybody on board. Realizing the value, I think, is key as well. You may have the excitement at the beginning, but you really need to prove how successful you are, what transformation you're bringing. And yeah, don't be afraid of disruption, changing the ways we do things. So yeah, remove the fears, just move on and embrace the change.
To be slightly controversial, everything's AI now. I feel like when I go to Starbucks, I want to get an AI coffee with some AI milk in it, If you haven't got AI in front of you, it doesn't exist. We've been doing IoT since before it was called IoT. So right from a very early stage, we used to capture data on machines way back in the 80s and 90s and late 80s. For me, most AI, when people say AI, I would term it more as machine learning. And because AI would suggest creation from nothing. If I innovate, AI, ChatGPT is a Google enhancement.
I would say the people first leadership view, for me, that it goes for any job, not just customer service. Because in all the jobs that you do, you want to have people around you that are equipped and committed to your cause, right? So, and if you want to have, because what is the alternative? You don't want to go to the alternative no matter what. And then you have to better make sure that the people that you work with are psychologically safe, that they have trust in the way the company is steered and in what you want to do, and they are asked to contribute and are taken seriously when they do, and that they have what they need in order to deliver on the expectations you put on them. So I think this is sort of global. It goes for all companies, all jobs, and that's one of my strongest core beliefs, talking about values, which we did before, but especially when it comes to a relationship based job like customer service or service delivery, it is critical, I think. And your organization is the face of your brand. So the better you take care of them, the better they will take care of the customer and promote the brand. So for me, it's pretty easy.